watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
This is ZNS News Update at 4 o'clock. Good afternoon, I am Vaughn Aubrey. Making news at this hour, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Hubert Minnis appealing to the public to join the fight in the war on crime. Prime Minister Minnis explained that crime affects victims and their families, which sometimes does not manifest until years later. The Prime Minister elaborated on the subject while at the opening of the National Training Symposium held at the National Training Agency this morning. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force issuing a statement today confirming that a female Defense Force Marine is currently assisting police with investigations following a traffic accident on Sunday morning in which 2 pedestrians were hit and succumbed to their injuries. According to reports, that tragic incident occurred on Marathon Road around 1 a.m. in the morning. And about 100 persons participated in the launch of the Seabreeze Fitness Walking Path this past weekend. The Member of Parliament for Seabreeze, the Honourable Lanisha Roll, says this is a part of her commitment to build a vibrant community and hopes this initiative will spread to other communities. That was ZNS News Update. I am Vaughn Aubrey. Good afternoon.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
Welcome to the best of sports world.
Now you can watch the ZNS network of channels absolutely free. That's right, ZNS is now broadcasting 3 separate channels, free to air on Channel 13. One channel has the regular ZNS TV HD programming. One is the Parliamentary channel, and one is the 24/7 television community page. These channels may be accessed simply by attaching either a rabbit ears antenna or an indoor amplified antenna to the RF input connector on the back of your digital television or flat screen TV. Once the antenna is connected, select TV mode and choose Auto Scan, and your TV will automatically pick up Channel 13 at no charge. Once you're on Channel 13, just use the channel selector to go to each of the 3 ZNS free channels. Antennas are available on many sites online. Free TV, ZNS brings it back to you. This week, Arts and Entertainment Showcase is back with another exciting series. Come and take a journey with us. Make new discoveries, meet new friends, get your groove on, and find your inspiration. Watch Arts and Entertainment Showcase Thursday at 8 p.m., Saturday at 7:30 p.m., and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. on the ZNS Network.
As an artist, I travel all over the world, and I find inspiration all around me. In the people, and especially the environment. I love the Bahamas with all its natural beauty. From Abaco in the north to Inagua in the south, and all the wonderful and colorful islands in between. But we must all do our part to keep the Bahamas healthy and clean, now and for the future generations. That's why I want you to find a little time to do your part. I'm doing my part because I care. Do you?
Food. It is as essential as air is to breathe and water is to drink. Food is life. But where does our food come from? The Bahamas has more than 2,000 farmers, but it's hardly enough to keep up with our growing population. Or is it? We traveled the nation to find out the answers to the questions everyone is asking. Can we feed ourselves?
ZNS Network, the People's Station.
That there is simply no comparison.
The views and opinions expressed on this show or program are not necessarily the views of the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Let's talk about love, health and wellness, transformation, yeah, we got it. Discuss your breakthroughs, national issues. This show will take you there, yeah. Taking it step by step, living your best life yet. Getting stronger and living longer. Let's figure out the questions for ya. I need a little conversation. You need a little conversation. When you need a little inspiration, tune into the conversation. Talk about it on the conversation. When you need a little motivation, life is better on the conversation.
Margaret Elizabeth, welcome to the conversation, everybody. How are you all doing? How's your week going so far? Has Monday been the typical Monday for you? I know a lot of people like to sort of like dread Mondays, but how about if you change your attitude towards Mondays, maybe Monday will be a little different for you, eh? How about that? I mean, like, you know, oh my God, it's Monday already. No, how about, whoa, Monday, welcome, let's do this. Let's make it happen. And so that's what the conversation is about today. Monday, welcome. Let's do this. Let's have some wonderful, wonderful conversations today and discussions. Of course, all week we're going to be looking at various topics and great shows for you. But today, what is happening and what we're looking at are some of the biggest news stories and issues that have captured your attention, the issues that have you talking. I don't know. What's been on social media over the weekend, I wonder? I guess it's just on social media. It changes like this, right? From hour to hour. I'm not sure what's been trending on social media this weekend because I have not. Top of your girl been busy. Yes, speaking from one thing to the next, straight into Saturday afternoon, and so yeah, I've been having a great several days, and today was rather busy as well. So I haven't been paying attention much to social media, but I'll tell you what's been in the news: tons and tons and tons of things, issues. I mean, for example, residents in the southern part of the island, extending very far and wide, have been suffering in the sweltering heat. Lord, for another outage, and that is because of another fire, a new fire, and number 4, right? And in a matter of 2 weeks, really, at BPL. Push this up a bit, okay, sure. And so we're going to talk about what's happening at BPL. In fact, I reached out to Union President Paul Maynard, rather. And he promised to come on the show, but then he got tied up in a number of meetings today. So we're looking forward to having and speaking with him this week, just to hear. But he really made a lot of sobering statements, really, with really the state of BPL and what's really happening there. And, you know, it's something nobody wants to hear. And so, of course, my panel today will discuss that and look at that and talk about it, and of course, give their opinions on the matter as we move forward. Then, the Prime Minister is speaking today. Nope, not on BPL or anything, but speaking about, you know, the spate of murders. I guess in particular, questions were put to him, and I guess he was really responding to the police murder. Many people thought, good, well, the leader of a country is supposed to speak of whatever's affecting that country at the time, but many criticized and said, what is he saying exactly? I didn't quite understand. And so we're going to look at that as well. Also, the PLP reaching out to millennials. Boy, the PLP's, I guess, slate of candidates can have a whole different look come 2022, yes?
Yeah.
So, because they're looking to be more appealing and to attract more millennials and more women to run for the party, to change the face of the party, the flavor of the party, and to get you more interested perhaps in giving the PLP another look. And so we're going to talk about that and so much more. There's a lot happening. I think we have a new Miss Bahamas universe. Just tons and tons and tons happening, right? I also want to hear from many of you today to participate in today's conversation. By the way, hello, Facebook audience. How are you? Hello to you, Robert. Hi, Joanne. It's good to have you all tuned in. Share the video. I want this video to be out there, widespread. Hello to you, Karen. Share the video. Let's get some people in. By the way, I want to hear from each of you for the topics that we're going to be talking about today. And if it's something that was in the news that you want to bring to the attention and bring to the table, then certainly feel free to do so via the social media, live stream, also the telephones, phone lines, which we will open in just a bit. Okay, so welcome to the conversation. Hi to everybody here around the table. How are you all doing?
Oh, we're good. It's good to be here. Like you, a very long weekend.
Yes.
And so I didn't see social media at all. But I did manage to get a little rest done, a little work done.
Which is good.
Which is good.
So you had a good balance this weekend then?
Very good balance.
By the way, were you affected any with the outages, the
yes,
power outages?
Yes, on Saturday night for at least 12 hours, not till Sunday morning.
It started Saturday night, like about what time?
After 9, probably closer to 10.
And it came on
after 9 on Sunday morning. Yeah, that was one time I say, oh, BPL. I see what people have to go through. Usually I'm not affected by the outages, especially when I'm at my office facilities instead of at home. But you know, it was really terrible. But
you know,
the issues.
Yeah, you know, those, when I used to live in Baines and Grantstown, Shenique, power for me never used to go that much. But ever since I moved out of the inner city, my powers go off so much.
I agree.
You know, it's like I decided I need to go buy a generator. You know, but what I decided to do was just keep all windows closed, freeze up the place. So in case BPL goes off,
you don't have to be
I don't ride. That's what you have to do. But outside of that, I had a pretty good, quiet weekend, and it's good to be back. You know, I thought you were still out sick, so I was, you know, but you know, I ended up hearing you on the radio. So and then after seeing that angel photo on Facebook, so I said I have to return to the show today. You know, I want to know if that's your twin or something. You know.
What are you trying to do? No, it's me. Just eye candy fixed me up all last week.
Nice, serious.
Just totally made me look beautiful for every engagement, every speaking engagement that I had last week. Eye candy made it happen and made me look so wonderful. And I thank you all, Atalia and Shakonda, for putting your magic touch on my face.
See, one of these days you have to hook a sister up.
So you and I need to go on one of these Mondays.
Yes, you have to hook a sister up.
Yeah, I'll see what they're saying. I'll see exactly what they're saying. Hello to you, Colette. Colette is watching from Andros. It's good to have you. Boy, Colette, you all have been experiencing the power outages, marathon outages as well. Hello to you, Transportation Central. He is in Ocala, Florida. Okay. Transportation Central. Big hello to you, Lillian and Trina. Big hello to you guys. Share the video today. I want to hear from you all. I want to hear what issues and concerns have your community talking and have you talking wherever you are. Let's just hear it and get you involved as well today. Share the video. I want you all to share the video as many times as possible. And let's get involved in today's show. Glenroy, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Good afternoon, Bahamas. You know, is it just me or it just seems that time is just rolling too fast?
Oh, wow.
Fast?
I mean, yes. It's like,
Today feels rather slow, no?
No. You lay down and then it's time to get back up to carry the kids to work, get back into the daily hustle. But you know what? I'm thankful that I'm alive. So it's good to be here.
Yes.
And welcome back, Shenique. I know you were sick with the flu.
Yes.
And you know, you're back at it. So good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. It's wonderful to be back. I am grateful for life and health and just great opportunities to continue making a difference. And also to come here around the table as well and inspire people with conversations that we have here, including Monday's Hot Topics.
Yes. It should be a good Monday,
I know, right? Where the opinion is fast and furious and flies between the various panelists here who are not short on opinions. They totally are not. And so, the Prime Minister spoke to the matter of crime this afternoon, or sometime today, rather. spoke to the matter of crime and talked about the fact that, you know, he declared a war on crime. I would have loved more to hear more details about this war, because it's a nice buzzword. It's been declared a number of times over the years. There's this war on crime. There's this war on crime. I would have loved to hear a more detailed description of what this new war involves.
Well, I'm not sure that it is a new war in that, except that everybody must be involved with this, because he did talk about declaring war and having everybody report or declare war on criminality, declare war on dishonesty. And he wanted to make sure that people understand that that is where he stands, and he want other people to stand at the same point, and that it would not happen if the entire nation does not do the same thing. So he's saying
he's declaring a war on every aspect of anything that's illegal, dishonesty, at every level.
Criminality, reporting to the police, what you have seen. Of course, you know, people on the street is not taking that too well, because they're afraid, as we've seen before, where when you make a report to the police or they call you a snitch, you know, sometimes you yourself have been they've been killed. And so obviously, if we're saying that the commitment has to be greater than just words, the commitment has to be on all levels of society, and that people could know that they can be protected, that if they report to the police, that they can have protection. You know, that brings up the point of that protection of the police. Or I'm not sure what the term is. I'm not sure, it doesn't come to memory. But that if you make a statement, if you go to the police, if you tell what you see, witness protection, that the police will protect you and that your life will not be snuffed out because you make a complaint.
Is it something that is I guess, enforced here in this country where people feel safe?
That's the biggest problem, though,
right,
I think.
To say, go and offer information. Now, there are anonymous lines that you can call. You don't have to go in anymore. There's the Crime Stoppers lines and that kind of thing that assists in that regard. But, I mean, you know, what is it that's still keeping people from speaking up?
Well, the general rule is, you know, one of the things I notice is a lot of us who get angry about certain things that are being stated by either the Prime Minister or anybody who seemingly get tough on in their rhetoric towards the criminal activity that takes place. The truth is, in order for change to take place, we all have to abhor this criminal mindset. And we all have to have this mindset that we want to stamp it out. And we have to stop providing safe harbor to these criminals and the criminally minded. Now, the challenge is it's not translating because many of the persons, you know, are in some criminal act themselves. As a result, their voice is silenced because the truth is, you know, they're benefiting from crime. And the more people benefit from crime, they're very shy from actually speaking out on it. And so unless we arrest this culture of criminality as a general populace, even the Prime Minister's rhetoric can't even go further. The truth is, it's a collective responsibility that we all need to take advantage of in order to curtail the criminal taking charge in this country. That's the only way we're going to change it. We all have to get to a point. I had enough. I'm sick and tired of the criminal-minded individuals, and we need to transform our country. But we have to do it in other ways as well. We have to do it in ways where we start from the young. We have to inculcate this mindset of what is yours is yours, but it's not that you should go after somebody else's stuff with a mindset that belongs to me.
And that's I think that the entitlement sort of mentality is also something that is hurting us. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the culture, he said, the culture of crime, I think that is a problem. Because when we get to a point where we feel that we can interfere with people's things, we can walk into people's yard, we can break into people's house because we want something. Of course, if we don't break that, if we don't commit to that, it's going to be a nonsensical rhetoric, just talking about it. We have to commit to that. And I think the Prime Minister also indicated, and I best based on what he has said, that I interpret that he is saying if we don't arrest this, we will have debt to the future in terms of young people, in terms of how do they see that? Because if we don't arrest it now, 10 years, 15 years down the road, we're going to have young people who continues to have this kind of feeling and culture.
You know, Shenique,
with crime.
You know, Shenique, you know, I listened to the Prime Minister today when he called out about having a war on crime. And, this has been going on for quite some time. But now, as the nation leader, he decided to call out a war on crime. Although the stats are trending downwards as it relates to criminal activities in the country, and the police is doing a superb job. If we're going to call a war on crime, and as the leader of the country, his governing party must take the lead in putting legislation towards Parliament for passing to enact so that the police can enforce, and all enforcement agencies must be consistent in enforcing the laws. So that's one component. The other component, if you're going to have a war on crime, is that you have to equip the experts on the ground, like NGOs, who go there to preventative, intervention, and rehabilitative. If you're not gonna provide funding or what we call technical support for these agencies, then all you doing is talking in vain. So it has to be a holistic point.
Let's just look at that right there for a moment, because you lead one of those NGOs that the sole purpose is to go out there and prevent, rehabilitate, address, pull in, and sort of to change this mindset that Glenn and I were talking about. How important it is for the government to recognize and partner and fund or some sort of something agencies like yours.
It is very vital because our government...
And what role would you play, would your organization play in assisting and continuing this downward trend?
Basically, other than consultancy, in the consultancy arena, we actually have boots on the ground, actually doing the work with the offender population, with the at-risk population, and even you have organizations who work with persons who are not even at risk, but help prevent them from becoming at risk. And if they are not funded, not only financially, but technically helping them build organizational capacity so that they can be very effective, then we are only becoming like, sounding brass cymbals, just empty barrels making noise.
That's what I'm afraid of. That's why at the top of the show, I said there's a renewed call on this war on crime.
Right.
It's been decades that this war, those buzzwords. It sounds good to say.
It's political words.
No one is looking to hear smart political words. What anybody wants to do is see, touch, feel effectiveness.
Yeah, I agree with you in theory, right, Shenique, but the challenge is, again, it's collective responsibility. Even though, the Prime Minister is leading a charge, right? He's not actually able to make people do what they're supposed to do when it comes to adhering to the law. Many persons can pass many laws on the books. But if we're not going to abide by those laws, then what's the point? And I noticed that people get offended or get upset when the police is carrying out his job, right? Now, granted, there are some police officers who don't do it effectively. They're disrespectful, and there's some things that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
I get that. But if a police is doing his job in accordance to the law, why should we be upset with him? Man, he could have done better. He should have given us a break. No, abide in the law. We have hired the police officers as the general public, okay? We have hired them as the general public. We have hired them as the general public to basically be able to carry out the rules and regulations that we have agreed to, that they will be carried out. And if we don't want to abide in the things that we as a populace agree to, then what's the sense of having police officers?
Yeah.
So the reality of it is, it's collective responsibility.
But the building of the culture of against the war on crime has to start with leadership, and Troy indicated that. Leaders has to lead in integrity and in honesty. You have to actually institutionalize integrity, and there's a lot of issues that come to play, and something that Troy says in regards to funding institutions who work on the ground. I've worked with young people in those issues, even prior to Troy coming in with the Lead Institute, and we do appreciate his work. But if it's not funded, if leadership does not take into consideration, unless these boots on the ground is funded in doing the work of rehabilitation, in comforting people when they're in those levels of situations, it's going to be a problem. So leadership have to take the lead in that, not only with just integrity and honesty, as I say, but they have to be part of solutions, and the solutions is in the technical work also.
But a part of it is we rely so much just on government to create the solutions of the problems that exist in our country. What about the parenting of these children who are creating these environments
a very important aspect, and even agencies like Troy can't get to parents who are not parenting.
No, but that's part of the funding too.
Right.
The funding helps for you to be able to get to the parents. Yes, because I see that. I've sorry, Glenroy, but I've seen that too when we work with young people. Part of the funding helps us to get to parents. We have a program where you're talking about follow the child home. So you're dealing with the child at school, but you need to get to the parent so the parent could also be cooperative in the work that's being done.
Agreed, but there has to be also.
But how do you get to the parents? You get to the parents through these NGOs. These NGOs help government get to the parents when they have programs from church to civic organizations. They get to the parents, and that's the only way. Yes, some will fall through the crack, but like I said, it has to be a trifold approach. Whereas you get the government and the legislation, you have the civic and NGO organization, and then you have, like you said, parenting and the church and other stuff. And whereas we as individuals have to keep the law.
Right, but here's the other reality in this country: we're not short on churches. Okay, we're not short on churches. We're not short on NGOs. What is happening is, I believe that we are short on accountability. Many persons are not held accountable.
What do you mean?
For example,
you mean like parents and the rest of it?
Right.
But how do you keep them accountable?
Well, you gotta enforce.
It is easier.
Constantly enforce.
No, but
listen, a city without walls is easily overtaken. When people realize that you're not going to enforce what you put down, then they will break it. But if you enforce what you put down, then they will abide it. But in other countries, right?
Teaching too, you right? You got to teach these because a lot of people don't know how to be parents.
I agree.
Not everybody who have a child know how to be a parent.
But you know what? I didn't put a lot on to say stop grinding.
No, but that isn't it. What I'm saying, you have people who are married and so forth and who have children. But what I'm saying is because of, if you have the majority of our population under the age of 25, it's all natural that you will have a lot of young people who have children. And today you have so many young people who have children who out there working, mind you, and they can't even raise their children.
The television is growing up kids. Social media is growing up. The bad influences in the neighborhood is growing up.
The government and because we know that we're not asking the government, right? But because we know this is there's a gap, there's a break. So what happens is that you have organizations such as ours who will step into the gap and try to mend what is going on.
Yes, the government cannot do it all. Right. We understand that. Having worked in non-government organizations for the last 2 decades at least, the government cannot do it all. But their little funds can help the people on the ground who actually wants to do the work. And that's why leaders has to be, and they can be committed.
But then they cannot isolate agencies like Troy's, Lead Institute, and many others. You cannot isolate. That's what they do over there, but this is what we're doing.
That's right.
It's a collective effort.
And I've found that in many instances. I know when I run a place called Hope House for young people, I mean, people would say, you think you're doing the job of the police or you're doing the job of social service. But the fact is, part of my work was to make sure that the person who come into my door get the services they need. And if the people in the agencies think that I'm doing too much, obviously they're not going to cooperate. And that's why everybody has to be committed, every government agency, or it becomes rhetoric from the government or from the leader of a country if those agencies are not cooperating when we come to do our work.
But again, agencies are not, the incubators are the bedrooms in the houses that people reside in.
That's what we do.
Now, understand, not only that, that's what you do as an NGO. I'm talking about in these homes where people have to be held accountable.
But how do you held on them accountable?
For example, if a minor ends up before you in the court system, right? Obviously, there's a breakdown somewhere in the household. That breakdown needs to be investigated firstly. If we find that the parenting is not there, immediately as a means to correct the problem, some parenting class is a mandatory for this parent who has an underage child who actually committed a crime. You have to now give an account. Where were you when this child was out there committing certain crimes? You have to give an account.
It's not easy.
No, but see, listen, unless we do something like this, we will continue to have the problems we have.
If you have worked in an NGO,
yes, something has to be done and maybe an idea as far-fetched as that. You know what I mean?
But That's what happens with the NGOs. The NGOs are working on the ground without.
And that is why they should be. But that's why they should be empowered.
It should be empowered.
NGOs are functioning in this country, but
No,
government.
No, Glenn, you don't. No. Hold on. Okay, let's take this one at a time. Okay. When we talk about NGOs working with parents, yes, we want to hold them accountable. What about a lot of parents who don't know how to be effective parents, and they have to go before the courts? That's where your partnership with social services and NGOs to help bring in the structure to help raise their children. Remember in the old African adage which says it takes a village to raise a child, so it is incumbent upon all of us.
Now, my question is, after the NGO involvement takes place,
right,
and we see a gap is still there in terms of the actual functioning of a parent, what accountability does that parent?
But I said that's in addition to what you're saying, and I said
I do appreciate Glenn Roy's concern because he speaks. Have you ever worked in an NGO?
No, I haven't.
Because he speaks from a point of just theory. When you worked in an NGO, the things that you must do in order to save some children, some families are very extreme. I remember having to go to a judge to adopt a child, get guardianship in order to help that child. I remember going to a judge and saying you need to take these children out of the home in order to save two little. These are things I have to do.
And how easy is that? Because
that is not easy.
In the U.S., it appears very easy when Child Protective Services
just come in.
Just take them out. How is that in the Bahamas?
It's not as easy.
Right.
See, especially the fact that I was an independent institution or NGO trying to do it. This is in instances where people from probably the police or the social service like, you're doing too much, you're going too far. But when a family comes to you and you need to help save some children, you have to take that approach. I'm telling you, I had to go to a judge on several occasions, take this man out of the home, put this man in jail. Give me guardianship for this child to help this child. So many things happens with an NGO that nobody ever knows. I remember with this child in this same instance, taking this child, having to get guardianship. When I found the parents who were in the United States, I had to leave here, carry them to the parent. So I'm saying many things happen in the level of NGOs that affect the parents, and that's where the accountability has to be, that the NGOs help the government reach the parents. We don't want them to go to jail first.
Right, and I want to know exactly what is the relationship between government, social services, national security, and these NGOs that are directly related to trying to address this issue in the country. By the way, Central Florida is watching. In Central Florida, of course, who's in the Ocala area, says Miss Miller, and guests, you need a CCTV. In my town, CCTV is at every school, every other red light. But the most important thing is the strict laws. There is no bond for murder. How strict are we with that? I think we kind of on the same level, I'm not sure. Listen, we're going to take a first break this afternoon. This is Hot Topics Monday. We got a lot to get to, guys. Please continue to share the video, continue to chime in. Karen and the others, I will get to your comments in just a minute. Stay exactly where you are. The conversation comes back after this.
we're not throwing away accountability, but how you held them accountable is that you.
G&M Appliances on Robinson Road has all your air conditioning needs this summer, like the Comfort Star 9,000 and 12,000 BTU 13 SEER for just $3.99. Or how about the Comfort Star 18,000 BTU just $5.99? Or how about the Comfort Star 24,000 or 36,000 at the lowest prices possible? We also carry a wide selection of air conditioning parts such as fans, compressors, filters, capacitors, or any part you may need. So, call today at 328-2083. We're located on Robinson Road.
How passionate are you in what you're doing here?
Very passionate. I have not been good at a lot of things, but cooking is one thing that I put my best foot forward every time I step in the kitchen. I do not accept mediocrity. If it's bad before it goes up to the guests, it's not coming up. I'd rather have a dish come up to the guests late and right than on time and wrong.
When I was small, Uncle Jerome used to come by to help me with my homework. He'd take me out for ice cream and ask me to sit on his lap. It felt uncomfortable, but I couldn't tell Auntie Candace. She might get mad at me.
Let's talk. Call the Bahamas Crisis Center's free 24-hour hotline at 328-0922. Sometimes a conversation can change a life.
I lived in fear for my life. I lived in fear for my children. I lived in fear of how I'd provide for them. I thought that he would change when he promised he would, and I forgave him every time he said that he was sorry. I became devalued as a human being until one day I ceased to exist as one.
Let's talk. Call the Bahamas Crisis Center's free 24-hour hotline at 328-0922. Sometimes a conversation can change a life.
For the latest news and highlights in Bahamian culture, tune in to the new Junkadoo 242, Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the ZNS Radio and Television Network. Radio Bahamas 1540 a.m. on 104.5 FM and TV 13. Each week, hosts Arlene Nash Ferguson, Eric Hall, and Darren Bastian engages listeners with some of the movers and shakers of Junkadoo and Bahamian culture. Don't miss Junkadoo 242, Saturday at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the ZNS Radio and Television Network.
Thank you very much, Margaret, Elizabeth, and Portia. Transportation Central says you need rewards. If you have a $10,000 reward, you would get the cop killer. Do they offer rewards in this country?
Yes, yes.
What rewards to be offered, Troy?
Crime stoppers. You get monies all the time. When you call directly to Canada, there's reward. They advertise on ZNS and all other stations every day. Crime stoppers. They give a reward for crime when you solve a crime. Yeah. Patrice Francis is acting.
You know you're me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Karen says, by the way, Karen is on. She says, if I could just, my video could stop doing foolishness. So she says, a part of the breakdown in crime is that the police arrest them. Arrest them. The lawyer, the judges set them free. She said that is the issue. The parents has accountability when it comes to their children. People like today, the church and so forth. The church is there to help steer your kids, but it's not the church's responsibility. Parents need to pull their socks up and do what is right. Don't know she's agreeing with the points that you made, Glenroy.
Very good point.
Karen says that she agrees with your points that you're making today.
Yeah, we're talking about, and I like when people bring in the church, and I would agree with Glenroy on that component. Whereas, if you look in a given year, children spend about 3,000 hours with their parents, whereas in a given year, they only spend about 40 hours with the church.
3,000 hours a year?
Yeah, on average, with their parents. Versus only 40 hours they would spend with the church. So if they want, so if you only spend 40 hours in a given year, when you 40 weeks, 40 hours, right. Okay, 1 hour a week. So you can't expect the church to do anything. It's the parenting, like Glenroy say, accountable.
And don't blame the church when today's world has just turned up its nose at the church.
So if you
half these children know what church looks like.
They don't go to church.
Unchurched, that's the word.
Very much unchurched.
So if you don't teach parents how to become parents, and if they learn how, remember the story, but they talk about why you cut the turkey in half and put it in an oven, right? And then the husband go back to the Grammy. Well, my mommy used to do it, and that's why. Then when you go back to the great-grandmother, why you did that? Because the oven was a rock oven on the outside and it was too small, so when we got the turkey for Christmas, we cut it in half. And it was never told why you should cut the turkey in half. And today's day, they have the oven twice as large as what you have there, and it could fit 2 turkeys, but they being doing a learned behavior.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so unless we train parents how to become parents, and we have to find a solution to it, because then how do you hold them accountable if this is all they know?
Well, but see, if we keep our hands in the air and not deal with this issue, we will have the same problem existing over and over and over and over. But a part of this accountability, like in America, when you're not dealing with your children effectively, right? Child Protective, I think Shenique mentioned initially,
comes in.
They come in and they assess the situation. Now, in some cases, they take the child and they put them in the care of the government. Now, nobody wants that. But the reality of it is, if parents are not doing what they should be doing, they need to realize that they'll face the consequences of their actions. And that's a part of being accountable. And if you have them in a situation where you visit this home, and you go and you see the children, parents are not there that they should be, all hours of the night they're all over the place when they should be parenting their children, they need to be held to account. That is where our breakdown is taking place. And we talk about who's growing up our kids. The television is growing up our kids. It's influencing them. They're acting out what they're seeing on television. And as a result, we have a society that is actually living in Hollywood when they're not living in true reality.
I do agree with the fact that, the accountability need to be at the parent level. But the fact is, like Troy indicated, some parents don't know how to be parents. And even when we talk about parenting classes, I do think they are so limited and minimal in terms of how many people get in a parenting class when we need to be having parenting class in gymnatoriums and auditoriums in order to get some of the parents to see. But I do think that the NGOs, the church, their participation in helping mitigate people children being taken away by doing their work. I remember we had something called a Church Adopt a School program. We put this program and we made sure that every public school had a church as part of the support. And many churches did not go longer than a couple of weeks, probably a couple of months the most. Some churches are still doing it after 20 years. But a lot of churches do not really come up on their responsibility to go in the byways and highways. It's not just about going to church for an hour. It's about the church going to the world and helping the parent bring up their children in another environment. And the Church Adopt a School program is part of that. You come to the school, you help the children through that medium. So we can do more. We just have to find creative ways in which the church, the NGOs can be part of helping parents with their children.
And that is what I want to know. How is the relationship? Where does it stand between NGOs like Lead Institute and many others and these various agencies?
Well, many NGOs have relationships with governmental organizations, and they partner a lot to get the work done. Case in point, you have civil society. They do a lot of work with different government agencies, from national security to the police force, the social services. A lot of times, the relationships in many instances are not formalized. Case in point, you have a formalized relationship like with the Crisis Center and Department of Social Services. You have that going on. And then you have other relationships or memorandum of understanding with, like you have an NGO such as, what the place by QC name? The
National Trust?
National Trust. That's a formalized relationship that you have with government. So it when it comes to certain issues, you have some formalization between government agencies and non-profit or non-governmental agencies.
And those they get more funding than those who are not formalized with MOUs or memorandum of understanding. And so I believe that every NGO, as Floyd says, does do some business with government agencies, although it's non-formal, but they do. I mean, in my instances with the National Committee for Youth Renewal and our Hope House program, we dealt with the police, we dealt with social services, sometimes with the Ministry of National Security, all of that in an effort that if we're going to declare war on crime, part of the human element of being part of dealing with some of these children.
And then how you can make parents accountable, as Glenroy was stating, the educational system. When a child matriculates from primary school into junior school into high school, there should be some mandatory that parents have to become involved to a certain level or a certain percentage for that child to move on to the next grade level. So you actually make or force the parent who's not accountable to become accountable. So they are actually examples of how you can make parents accountable.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where you force it. I mean, the truth is, the taxpayers, we are paying for free government education, right? So in those instances,
and it ain't free, right?
Well,
yeah.
Right. So you need to be able to show up to PTA meeting. For example, a report should be given to NGOs on, for example, the NGO can adopt a school or two, and then they can turn around and get a report. All the students in the school, how many parents have attended the PTA meeting in the last 3 months or whatever, you know, and that's how you start to highlight and to look at things like that. And in fact, probably need to start calling out some of these parents as well, who is not being actively involved in their child's development and education, so that we can shame them, because they need to stop.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And
what Karen says about the village that raised the children, is speaking of calling out parents, Glenroy, she says, listen, you talk about disciplining and all this stuff, you go try discipline in today's Bahamas, somebody's kid, and you end up getting into a fight, the parents want to attack you, and so it's just a breakdown at many levels.
And for example, I was watching social media, right, and the young man who apparently turned himself in, whatever, right, in the situation. A lot of people, I hope he's innocent, I hope they didn't get the wrong person, he's releasing this, the next thing, and all that next thing, right? We don't know the facts. So all I ask people to do is hold your tongue until you get all the information. But here's what's striking to me. We are more outraged that a man is being held in custody than the fact that a man was shot in front of his daughter, and the fact that he was shot in a schoolyard. So where's the outrage for that? And where does the anger take us to the level that we want to change these types of situations so that we can now infiltrate the system to a point where we could change the mindset of young people coming up so that we don't have another situation like this? That's where the anger should be geared towards, not towards the police doing what they're supposed to do and trying to find out who actually did this particular crime.
And another solution that we can actually implement, Shenique, is that what we can do is that students who are in grade 11 and 12, part of their family life is some form of parenting classes should be given to these students, because you know in the future they will become parents. So if you implement parenting classes at grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12 in the family life classes in private and governmental school, I think that will help alleviate the problem as these children grow up into adults.
And here's another opportunity. Before your child is able to move to the next grade, there has to be a parent-teacher conference, right? And maybe something on some parenting situation. Give teachers an opportunity to make some overtime, because it's investing in our children. Give them an opportunity, or we have those NGOs come in and talk about parenting, but you have a structured environment that year after year they go through the same process in order to be developed and in order to go forward.
But you are so right. The culture has to be inclusive. I think the Prime Minister was attempting to speak to that. It has to be, if we're going to secure the future, the next generation, the culture has to be built as to what we will do. I remember at least 10, more than a dozen years ago, when we introduced Project Renewal. It was a comprehensive program that actually involved the church, the school, and the government. It was a proactive program initiative of the National Youth, proposed for the National Youth Service. And the purpose of that is, like Troy said, if we get the children while they're in school, we use a comprehensive initiative to make sure that these persons, there is accountability, as Troy says, not Troy, Glenroy. All of these things has to work together to make sure that we create a culture that in the future children know that they are accountable from the school, from the home, from the church, from the government, but every agency is working together to make sure. And I believe that if that program had worked, that we would have a different culture with young people in the country.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break right now and come back with more of the conversation. I'm going to open the phone lines after the 5 o'clock news update. But right now we're going to take a break and come back with more. We also have a lot more to get to, so you don't want to go anywhere. Stay exactly where you are. The conversation continues after this.
When Reggie heard about the new KFC Value Bucket with yesterday's classics, he said, I'm going to groove an Afro hairstyle, get dressed up, get the car, grab my girl, and remember those good old days. And so he did. Here, got dressed, the car, and his girl. Reggie realized that everything has changed except the irresistible taste of KFC. Enjoy a meal of the chicken you love for only $20. The new Value Bucket at KFC Nassau. It's finger-licking good.
As a young man at the University of the Bahamas, I have dreams, goals, and ambitions just like everyone else. My wheelchair does not limit me. And neither does my university.
We gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I'll like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up.
Brought to you by UBTV and the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
How passionate are you in what you're doing here?
Very passionate. I've not been good at a lot of things, but cooking is one thing that I put my best foot forward every time I step in the kitchen. I do not accept mediocrity. If it's bad before it goes up to the guests, it's not coming up. I'd rather have a dish comes out to the guests late and right than on time and wrong.
Together, they engage in a range of activities which may seem simple, but have the potential to give Symphonia the head start she needs.
In terms of this program, yes, it's going on in some islands across the Caribbean, but on the wider level, clearly, how important is that whole issue of the early childhood development?
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the conversation. What is that, Margaret? I know we've been trying to iron some things out all show long. And so, yeah, we are back, and it's good to have you all tuned in. I see we have Therese holding. Therese, it's good to have you call in today. Welcome to Hot Topics Monday and the conversation. Hi, Therese, are you there? Hello, Therese, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Yes, good evening.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm very well, thank you. Your show is very interesting.
Thank you, Therese.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Your show is very interesting, and I noticed that you have 2 males and 1 female.
Yes.
And all of you should know this is, I'm not going to say who I am. That's my show name is Therese. We'll talk later. But this conversation is very interesting. However, there seems to be a component that's missing. The component that I'm talking about, you're talking about the NGOs, working with government, and you're talking about the school, the parents, the child, and some other and the agencies. One of the things that I feel that is missing, and it might come under the umbrella of what you call parenting. But who is managing or assisting or helping people to deliver, to develop the relationship within the family, looking at the developmental stages of the family in terms of what happens to the family when 2 people get together and become one. That's a stage that they go through. Then when they have a child, that's the family stage. When they have more children, that's the family stage. You know, who's looking after that? Who's helping? Who's teaching about that? We look at what's happening with human development and the development of each individual as they develop what it is that they have to achieve to bring together what needs to happen in this family. And I didn't hear that coming out in the discussion. I think what I hear is bits and pieces of a process, but there has to be something that holds that process together, carries it along, and make sure it lasts. And the concept of the village, bringing up the child, is the concept of how do you help that family to be together in terms of their relationship and their functioning. Yes, you can tell the parents to do this and do that. Yes, you can mandate this and that. But I didn't hear anything about it helping the family, the parent to become persons who are able to bring in the economic aspect, because that is critical to any family. You can have parenting as much as you want. You can tell that parent to come to school as much as they want. But if that mother or father is not working, they don't have the means of getting funds in to help that family, to grow that family, it's just going to fall through.
Like what?
Yeah.
Therese, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You make great points, but what I am wondering is, how is a government, people already have issues, but we're going to get to a topic after 5 about promised mandatory evacuations bill has constitutional implications. When you want to get that deep into a person's private affairs, you see, then all these other things come up. How is it constitutional for you to tell me what to do, how to live a family, how to raise a family, how to operate my family, that kind of thing. I'm just wondering how much we want the government to do in terms of you being responsible for the sex you happen to bring forth kids. Hello?
Shenique, I can't hear you.
Therese, I give up. I'm not going to battle.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I know. We're having some challenges with audio, and I don't want my head to start hurting.
I think a bit of what I heard was A bit of what I heard was expecting the government. No. There has to be a system together with the NGOs that's going to create something that's going to build the country. I'm not saying that the government should do it. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, how are we thinking in that light? We have to do a complete something. What we are doing now is only bits and pieces, because obviously it's not working. Obviously there has to be some improvement. So what is missing and why is it missing? And I'm going to hang up and turn my TV back up loud. I can see it, but I can't hear you.
Therese, you're
I'm going to hang up now.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Okay, Therese, can you hear me now?
No, I can't.
Okay, Therese.
I'm going to hang up and then listen to you on the TV.
Yes, thank you so much, Therese. Thank you.
Okay.
I hope she can hear me now. Karen, yeah, you understand what I'm saying, right, Karen? Karen is on social media, says she agrees. And what Therese is saying about the NGO's role, and that's what we were kind of saying basically all for the last hour, and that is the NGOs there need to be given more teeth and more financial assistance, because they can go where government can't go and should not go. NGOs, sort of, that is their role to kind of walk this thing out and to reach into the family to hopefully make some progress and to assist families with better coping, eh?
But let me ask you a question. In our population right now today, right, how many persons actually, when you look at the persons born outside our wedlock, in terms of what we call the quote-unquote family, how many families do we really have? Or do we have a lot of single mothers raising a lot of children on their own and don't have the necessary structure to make the environment better? For example, based on the numbers of single parents that we have in this country, do we have enough NGOs to handle such a problem?
To even address that.
And that is a big issue.
No, but I think Therese is speaking to the system of how do we manage. Because we look at societies that have better societies. It doesn't matter that people have single children, single parents. It is the fact that, how the family goes, the community will go, the nation will go. And so it is important for public policy to make sure that systems are in place, that whatever you do in the nation will amount to a better nation. And that means on the level of family, that means on the level of community, on the level of the nation. So it has to be public policy. That's where it comes into place. Public policy to make sure the family is settled. They would operate on a certain level, the community and the nation. And so there has to be a system, a culture that we must create to make sure that parents has to fit in. Wherever you go in the world to live, that city has some kind of culture, some kind of system in which you have to abide by.
You will never have one cap that fits all. That's why you have a variety of civic organization, religious organization, educational organization, all of those components from social service, education, civic organization, sporting organization, all of those play a role in helping the family rear a child. Many single parents grew their children up in the inner cities, in yesteryear, and they send their children to Boys Brigade, Girls Brigade, Scouts, and all of that played a vital role of children actually developing and the family developing to their fullest potential. So what I'm saying is that it is not just one NGO, say an NGO to a parent or to a family. All of us come out of our silos and work together collaboratively to make it work.
It's the village.
Oh, well, hey, it's a village, and I guess the village has a different face now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's necessary.
It is no longer a community.
It's not. We're going to take a break and go to the news at 5. Stay exactly where you are. The conversation on Hot Topics Monday comes back after the news update.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
This is ZNS News Update live at 5 o'clock. Good afternoon, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Munnings. Here's what's making news at this hour. 48-year-old Timothy Cole of Fort Fincastle was formally arraigned in the magistrate's court this afternoon for last week's murder of Inspector Carlos Blatch. Cole was transported to the courts under heavy police guard. We'll have details of the arraignment in tonight's newscast. Government taking a strong stance to reduce the dependence on foreign workers and ensure that more skilled jobs are reserved for Bahamians. Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Hubert Minnis announced today that there must be a reduction in the amount of work permits issued to foreigners. His comments came during the official opening of the Ministry of Labor Skills Symposium being held at the National Training Agency on Gladstone Road. And officers of the Police Traffic Division concerned about motorists who are distracted when driving. Hear what advice the officers have for you motorists on the matter in tonight's newscast. Details of those stories and more coming up in our 2-hour national newscast. It starts in less than an hour at 6 p.m. We hope you tune in then. I'm Altaviz Munnings as always. Thanks for watching.
More Bahamians are being encouraged to get involved in fishing and farming in an overall view of growing our agriculture industry, putting the Bahamas in a better position to not only feed ourselves, but create a sustainable food chain of produce for export. Hello, I'm Carla Palmer. In the next episode of Agriculture Now, we'll explore the potential of the fisheries sector. Join me on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. for Agriculture Now. That's Agriculture Now on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. on the ZNS Television Network.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1st through November 30th, when a hurricane alert is issued for your area, which indicates the possibility that you could experience hurricane conditions within 60 hours. You should begin the initial stages of preparation for the storm. When the storm is 48 hours away, a hurricane watch is issued. Once a watch is issued, be sure to get updates from the Met Office via television and radio. Get your battery-powered radio ready. Keep your emergency supply kit, blankets, and sleeping bags handy, and your children and pets indoors. Be sure you have extra cash and that your car has a full tank of gas. Fill all prescriptions. A hurricane warning means that a storm with winds of 74 miles per hour or more is 36 hours away. At At this point, secure all windows with shutters and plywood. Place your valuables and records in waterproof containers and store them on the highest floor of your home or in the safest area. This public service announcement has been brought to you by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas in conjunction with the National Emergency Management Agency.
Meanwhile, Bahamian Shenique Miller-Ubu broke a 16-year-old Commonwealth Games record as she clinched gold in the women's 200 meters final.
Did you bring the thing?
What thing?
Protection.
Come on, man. You really want to ruin the moment with that?
I actually think it will help the moment. No worries. Now we can continue. Next time, step your game up.
We play just like your kids. We text just like your kids. We learn. We even cook. We take selfies. We have hobbies. And we love sports. In every way, we are just like everyone else and enjoy the same things and live our lives every day, just like you do. So if you happen to meet us, treat us just like everyone else. Because at the end of the day, we're just like you. Living life with Down syndrome is simply living. To learn more about Down syndrome, call 727-2105. This message is brought to you by the Grand Bahama Down Syndrome Society.
Questions for ya. I need a little conversation. You need a little conversation. When you need a little inspiration, tune into the conversation. Talk about it on the conversation. When you need a little motivation, life is better on the conversation. Tune into the conversation.
Welcome back to the conversation, everybody. It's a Hot Topics Monday. I mean, we spent the first hour really talking about the crime situation here and some of the root causes and what could possibly be some of the answers, you know. But we're going to shift gears now after the 5 o'clock update. Of course, it's like shifting, and so we're going to get to more stories and more headlines. But first, I want to say a big hello to the crew there at the Ministry of Works. They love the conversation. They listen in, you know, the various areas. And so big hello to you all for listening in and tuning in. It's really cool to have you all tuning in always. Also, anybody else that I'm missing out?
And we have the girls at the prison, you know, they listen. Inmates at the prison always listen to you, Shenique. They just love listening to you. So when I go to my classes on Friday, you know, there was one on maximum security. I was so shocked because I thought it was a family member. You say, oh, tell Miss Miller hello for me. And so when I asked him if you know the young man's name, he said no. And when I went back into prison in maximum, I said, I thought you knew her. He said, no, I listen to you all every Monday.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. No, by the way, hello, inmates.
So funny, right?
I know, right? I know.
Yeah. Always online.
Grand Bahama. Oh yeah, Grand Bahama. I think Karen is Grand Bahama. But hello to everybody. Yes, and just appreciate everybody. You know.
Yes.
And I hope that you all are enjoying the show today and the discussion that we have going on. And wherever you're watching, whether it's in the Bahamas, outside the Bahamas, it's really good to have you all tuned in. The YouTube audience as well, which I did not get to today. But hello to you all as well. Yes, and that is ZNS Network on YouTube that you can go and subscribe and follow. Okay, and of course on Facebook, it's ZNSnews.com official Facebook page or Shenique Miller The Conversation official Facebook page. Today's show is being brought to you by the Ministry of Finance, Almighty Computers, Miden's Wholesale, S&M Uniforms, Money Managers, GM Appliances, and Club One Fitness Center. Thank you all so much for coming on board the conversation, supporting the conversation. Is really wonderful having you all support the show. You know, sponsorship is our thing. I want to welcome more of you on, though. I'm going to have Renard on this week, and he's going to tell you how you can take advantage of the most incredible packages on the biggest platform anywhere in the country, right here on The Conversation. So let's get you started. Let's get you on board so that your business, your product, your event can get the kind of attention it needs. Guys, something that I think that we deserve perhaps a mention on before we go into other stories is that, we'll get there in a minute, but the promised mandatory evacuations bill has constitutional implications. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think when it comes to mandatory evacuations that the Constitution or constitutional implications should have any bearing. Because when you talk about mandatory evacuations, when you are telling people that they have to get out of their homes for whatever reason, obviously it's for their own safety, particularly in times of storm.
Yes. And, we just have some stubborn people who, and you see that all around the world.
Oh, yeah. North Carolina.
Especially in North Carolina.
The Carolinas, for example, yeah.
And you have people who just will stay in their home. And maybe, that's the reason why we need to take a look now and really look at actually amending our Constitution, because it's I think...
So you think this should be a constitutional matter?
It should not, but everybody, in this country... Anytime you try to make progress, there's always a challenge to progress.
No, but the fundamental rights and freedom of the individual, according to Chapter 3 of the Constitution, is clear. This is across the board, across the world. Almost every constitution have that. And that is why, even though Article 25 of this Constitution, our Bahamas Constitution, that speaks to the freedom of movement and people have a right one way or the other, it also gives the state the right to deal with certain things based on the public safety and public order.
So even though the Constitution provides for freedom of movement, freedom of your decision,
yes,
but the state still trumps all of that.
It would trump that in regards to the safety of the community. The state is responsible for public safety, for public order, and whenever that has to be, when they says you need to move because the waves will come 25 feet, we're prepared to do that because we don't want policemen and other people to put themselves in harm's way to rescue you when the waves come up. So, we have to cooperate in both things. It doesn't need to amend the Constitution because in other places or in other times, it may be that we infringe on people's constitutional right.
We see this happening in the Carolinas, for example. Yes. People who decided, the storm. First of all, a tropical storm is an issue. A tropical depression could be an issue. But anyways, moving on from that point, they were given mandatory evacuation notices, yes?
Yeah.
Some decided they're not going to move.
Right.
And it is heart-wrenching to see volunteers and official rescue personnel having to go and wade through feet of water and God knows whatever else they're meeting to go and try rescue these people.
Simply put, those persons need not to go. That's the reality. If you decided to stay, then you decided to die. I mean, I don't know if you remember last year or a year before, there was a particular gentleman, sorry, buddy, but you did it to yourself. Who decided, I'm not moving, when they asked persons to move from the south end of the Bahamas on Nassau. I know but storms. I'm not moving. The storm is not coming this way. And then all of a sudden, the next day, he was like, I saw the sofa leaving. I saw the door floating. I saw the bureau. Next time they tell you go, you must go.
This is what he's saying.
He becomes an advocate after that
yes.
But see, the reality of it is we have stubborn people. And so if we find people are stubborn, we need to send a very clear message. You've decided to stay. Please make sure that you have some type of ID on you so that in the event that something happens, we can identify you. That's simple. We have to be serious with people. Otherwise, they will ignore us. That's just the facts.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it has to be something that goes to a referendum, something that the Constitution. Listen to me. If you are told, listen, there's a storm headed your way, and it could be a water maker. It doesn't even have to be this category 4 or 5. It could just be a water maker where you know there's going to be storm surge and flooding, etc. Man, move.
And I think we take for granted hurricane after hurricane. Damages happen in our country and no lives are lost like that.
7.
And you look in the Carolinas, 18 actually.
18 now, right?
You look at Puerto Rico the other day when the storm hit Ragged Island. You had 64 initially, and then as a consequence of what happened from the storm, you had up to 3,000 persons who succumbed to their because of the storm. And in the province, you didn't have that kind of thing. So we are a relatively blessed nation, but we cannot keep on taking that for granted.
Well, I think the authorities obviously just make sure that their regulations and their stipulation is that whatever happens, we may not be able to rescue you. Now, I think about even when we had the storm in New Providence, that was the biggest storm I have ever, well, not storm, but water, I had ever endured, because the wind was just as bad. When that water came up in the south of New Providence, in Hannah Road and on Marshall Road, the water came up so suddenly. Right. That's the reason why they said we need you to leave.
Yes.
Now, when people do not leave, now you're going to have an issue where the police had to put themselves in harm's way.
Yeah,
harm's way.
and then think about the various risks. Live wires.
Right.
You don't know what's in the road. You don't know what's in that water.
That's
like so many things.
Because that's an issue, as you say, with live wires when people get in water situations. So the mandatory evacuation, you don't have to change the Constitution for that, because the Constitution give you way to be able to do what has to be done for the public safety and public order.
The thing about it is, we were talking about this at lunch to work today, and unlike some of the storms, we know when the storms are coming. We see that it may potentially go over mountainous terrain, so we have some opportunities to evacuate and say, it's probably going to dissipate, whatever. But when you have a Category 4 storm, nothing is going to stop it. And you see where they said in North Carolina, they had 80 feet waves. Okay?
Wow.
Can you imagine in the Bahamas if we have a storm coming at 80 feet waves? There's nothing you can do. And so who's going in those waters to go help somebody, talk about rescue them? If you look in the back of South Beach right after the hurricane, this gigantic sailboat was in the road. Okay? If a bus or a truck was trying to rescue people, they would have been hit by something of that magnitude. And you could imagine what kind of catastrophic situation we would have been facing today.
Absolutely. Bremen, thank you very much for calling into the show today. Welcome to the conversation on Hot Topics Monday.
A godly day to you, always along with you, beautiful people.
Good afternoon.
The gentleman, right? I don't think y'all giving justice to this conversation. The brother in which speak of hard-headed people. What's your position? What's your name, Mayor?
I'm sorry?
What?
The brother would say that the people are hard-headed when they are told to move when they hadn't moved.
Troy or Glenroy, both of us said something about that.
Yeah, what kind of work you do?
I'm a former Defense Force officer. I work with an NGO. I'm a former Defense Force officer, and I work with an NGO now.
Okay. The thing is, you're not in a position to take away people's rights. If somebody was told to move, they decide not to move. What you got to look at, they're not breaking any law. And when you talk about safety, right, is see the storm. You say if you know a storm coming, number one, those that in authority should go around and see what people places are like. You don't wait until the very moment that when the storm gonna hit, you're gonna tell the people to get out of their safety zone. That's not right.
Okay.
You're infringing on their right.
All right.
So you don't call them hard-headed.
Yeah, they're hard-headed.
Other thing is, right?
They're stubborn.
you don't even call them stubborn.
They stubborn.
They are
don't get it.
domain, and they have rights. They're not breaking any law. They have rights.
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. They have rights. Yeah, you're right, Raymond. You make
a lot
great
of them's
point.
common sense ain't common though.
Is, right? When you're going to use the word safety, safety covers a wide range. And right now, we have a lot of people, illegals in this country, in which people, the public, are always harking on the government to do something about, and what they're doing for years. So, get fair with the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Thank you very much. And see, this is why I guess the Attorney General talked about the fact that it has constitutional implications, because you will have people like that. Now, in the Carolinas, remember they said, well, you stay at your own risk.
Right.
But they still went and rescue people.
But there's an interesting point, as Raymond was talking, I'm thinking about, because when you have a mandatory evacuation, it means then that people will come to your door and find out, are you leaving? Because that is how it's done in most places. Because you have disabled people who can't move anyhow. There are people who might be not able to move, or people who haven't heard the radio. There's a lot of issues that comes up here, and whether the government has the manpower to make sure that when they declare a mandatory evacuation in a certain area, whether people are knocking on doors, because that is the way it is done. If we're going to do that, are we going to check every door? Are we going to make sure that the person who is in a wheelchair, the person who is crippled, is going to be taken out of there or have the ability to get out?
Hi, Chanel. Thank you very much for holding. Welcome to the conversation. Hi, Chanel.
Hi.
Hi. Turn your television down. Chanel, turn your volume down.
I just want to respond to Raymond.
Yes.
The thing is that, yes, everyone has their choice or their right to, to stay, to stay during a storm. They don't want to move, that's fine. They don't want to be displaced. But so does every official. People have their rights to come for you or not.
Mm-hmm.
You still place people in a very dangerous position. What could you say to that man's wife or husband who would come for you and they lose their life? Well, what would you say? All of a sudden now it's too late. You're in a position where nobody can help you. You call for 911 or some neighbor or somebody who can't possibly get to you. And when they come for you, they end up dying. Raymond, I need you to really think and really think and see where people are coming from. They're not saying you don't have a right. You do have a right, but you put other people in danger because they know that this life is calling for help.
Yes.
And that's what he needs to consider. It's not about having a right to stay to die.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. No, you're very right. You make a great point. The thing is, and this is what we're saying, it should not be to the point where people still have to come out there and rescue you. You see, that is the major concern for a whole lot of people, particularly the various emergency response teams that work around the clock during a storm. It's quite difficult to kind of think about having to go through these fallen trees, fallen lines, just a bunch of things you could meet on the road. And remember during Matthew when major thoroughfares were blocked for days?
Yeah.
Oh my God, going through Eastern Road, for example, was like trying to get through a war zone.
Very dangerous.
Trees all over the road. You could not, some places you couldn't even drive. You had to turn around and look for alternative route.
Yeah. And especially
Thank you very much, Chanel.
That's true, Shenique. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and she made really, really good points. And, especially on an island where we're surrounded by water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you could ride on the outskirts of the Eastern Road or go west, and you'd be washed right into the ocean with that water coming over.
That's another thing. Yes, the doggone, the force of those waves can pull you right out.
People don't realize the dangers that exist, because very few times you can ride just inside the island to reach people. You have to ride some cases on the outskirts.
Listen to me. I tell you, I've never seen it like Matthew before.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Matthew, Eastern Road was impassable.
Yeah.
Even I remember driving from where I was at the time, where I was working, through the Prince Charles area, trying to get out, and that was like again driving through a war zone.
Yeah, very dangerous too.
Yeah.
You know what? But one of the things that always amazes me, though, when you talk about the dangers of hurricanes or storms, is the fact that while we talk about how dangerous they are, news reporters often find themselves out in it.
Man, listen, don't laugh. Don't do
I'm
it.
like, is it dangerous enough for you to be outside?
No,
or
let me tell you,
know?
you don't get it. Like Darrell Miller said during the Straw Market fire.
It's a fire over fire.
Those are some of the times we just love it. Seriously, you don't want to put yourself at risk. Now he made a different statement like this is what we live for.
Broadcast.
No, but listen, I thought you were going with the fake reporter.
You talking about the guy? Oh yes.
Father Dickens. You missed it, Troy. It went viral.
Yeah,
this reporter, the wind was blowing, but this much right here.
Right.
Everybody watching on TV and social media, the wind was blowing, and he's stenching against the and the storm, and this is what's happening, and right here. And two men, I knew he could have cursed them men. Yeah. Two men walked behind him like, man,
Casually.
I didn't see that one.
On a casual stroll. Like,
This still breeze. I know we used to extra in times of storm, but seriously, it is career-wise what we live for. We love it. But you don't want to be stupid about it either. You don't want to lie. Jesus, you don't lie.
Credibility.
Now, I'll tell you what I've done.
That was fake news.
No, that's fake. Donald Trump, please don't give him credit.
Right.
Anyways, no, but I've done stuff before. Like, I've gone in a storm to the highest point of somewhere where the winds are excessive and the waves are really... Because you want that effect. Yeah. And I wasn't lying, though. You could see behind me what's happening. But this dude, it was going just like this. And he there stenching like as a 60-degree, 80-degree miles per hour wind.
Wow.
He's having to like brace himself against just foolishness. Miss Bo, thank you very much for holding. Welcome to the conversation.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm on?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead. You're on.
Okay, all I want to say, I remember many years ago when it was hurricane time. Before hurricane time come along, people would go around cutting trees and moving things so it could be like there could be vehicles and whatnot. You don't see that anymore. I think we had a long time going from this year to next year hurricane. You know who's the people them who in this situation, who can't get out and what's not, who hopes need to be fixed. And I think 1 year time is enough time for the government, whoever need to go around to the poor people them who can't do for themselves to make sure they secure. Because these are the same people, they come back next 5 years looking for help. So the ones who can't help themselves, I think they should try to help them beforehand to make sure they can move up. Not wait till a appointed date to say, move to safety and what's not. I don't think it's fair.
So you're saying a few days for people who are not financially able to move is not sufficient time to expect them to be able to do something?
No, because they have the whole year to go around and assess these people to know if they could move or what they can do. But 1 or 2 couple hours before, no. There'll be enough time to check around. There are vehicles, cut trees, what's not in these poor areas, what's not to help the people them. That's what I think the poor ones is the ones who really get hurt, affect the most. And it's the ones who don't want to leave those situations. You have to make them feel comfortable enough so they can get out of the situation and move to safety. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, thank you so much, for Ms. Bo, for calling and sharing your thoughts with us and participating in today's conversation.
Yeah, Shenique, that's why as a community, we know we have hurricane season between a certain time of the year. We prepare our community. As neighbors, we know we should cut down trees, you should do certain things before, and you should and they always advertising about hurricane preparedness. And a lot of times, we as a people, and this is really blatant. September, everybody, I ain't got no more money. School this, you gotta get this, and like this just crop up on us at the last minute. Right. And we too like to procrastinate at the last minute. Mm-hmm. And as a people, we need to stop from procrastinating and start preparing. Okay?
Yeah, it's true. Listen, we live in a hurricane belt.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's not going to change.
No.
Right. We can't move Nassau down south. We can't move Nassau up north. We live in a hurricane belt. So in all reality, we should start from January preparing ourselves mentally in the event of some tragic storm. Mm-hmm. And by that I mean,
the agencies
you start, for example, you pick up an extra can of tuna, an extra can of spaghetti or whatever, and you stock that away because you say, okay, this is an event that there's a storm traveling. You start to prepare in advance. We can't continue to operate like this, whereas we feel like we're getting caught off guard when the truth is
very
we
true.
know when the storms are coming.
Yes, very true. And then also, certain things we can start doing. Like you say, from the beginning, you're there to prepare from your canned goods, you plan differently with the canned goods. Maybe tuna, you don't need all that salt. But anyways, the canned goods, the lighting. You don't need all that candles either. There are different forms of lighting now that is wonderful.
Right.
Stock up on your batteries. Just do it. You're right.
From January.
From January,
But
yes.
right.
Every month you add something.
Exactly.
The culture, though, of the community obviously comes down from leadership. Just how we do it ad hoc, that's how the people operate. We need to find a way to build a new culture. That maintenance goes all year round, even for the government. I mean, look at some of the government buildings. I mean, they wait till the place is actually totally dilapidated, and you want to tear it down. If you maintain it, it wouldn't have to be.
If you maintain
and we're very bad with maintenance in the country.
Speaking of maintenance, BPL, eh?
Oh.
According to a BPL union president, Paul Maynard, maintenance is the issue here.
Yes.
Lack thereof.
You've created that culture. I'm saying we have to do better.
Do a survey in this country, Shenique. Do a survey in this country. Every 10 homes, see if people actually maintain their own homes. A brand new home will be built today. Look at that same home 5 years later and tell me how much maintenance they have done.
We can talk about maintenance. We can talk about maintenance. We can talk about maintenance and whether or not our maintenance should equal the government's lack of maintenance.
You know?
You know what I'm saying? You understand. Let's go to Caden, and after Caden, we'll go to the break. Caden, thank you so much, Caden. Okay, Caden, if you call back after the break, I will come to the line, I promise. By the way, big hello to Elvis watching from New York. He says he is enjoying the show. Thank you so much. Also, Lysandra says it's a saying that, yes, if you don't listen or hear, you will feel. She says, and Karen says, we live in a hurricane-prone area, so we shouldn't need someone to think for us. We should have a plan as a family already in place so that in the event a storm comes, that everybody knows exactly what the role is. Yes. And you're right. And because I'll tell you again, I hate to say, the U.S., but the U.S. has things like fire in case there's a fire.
Yes.
Just different things. How does a family respond? What is the sort of emergency response in this household? And Karen, you're right. These are things that we need to do as well.
That is what Therese was speaking to. The fact that there is a process, and always when the community is educated on the process that we do across the board, the government has to do it, the people has to do it. The government is bad with maintenance, the people is bad with maintenance. The government wait till the last minute to do things. Same thing happened with the people. We've created this culture across leadership for quite many years and decades. We have to change that culture, and it has to start with leadership.
You mean the people bad with maintenance to the government because the government is only a reflection of the people?
No, but that's the point now, that where we must change and create new culture with public policy. I mean, just to mention Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy, to talk about things.
I'm just going to tell you, I know she's going to throw it in.
It's the slow sponsor. Thanks. Stay exactly where you are. The conversation on a Hot Topics Monday comes back right after this. Yeah. No, I get it.
This summer,
at Mydens Wholesale, the concept is simple. The more you buy, the more you save. Yes, the more you buy, the more you save. This means that at Mydens Wholesale, when you buy in the same group 3 products, you get 15% off, 6 products, 20% off, and 12 products or more, 33% off. Mydens provides you with the largest selection of pantyhose, socks, t-shirts, school supplies, underwear, and much, much more. You can also sign up to be a reseller of BTC and Digicel Top-Up and to save 33% on your purchase at Mydens Wholesale. We also ship to the Family Islands, and that's not all, because when you shop at Mydens, you can pay your utility bills, send MoneyGram, RIA transfer, and purchase tickets from Sky Bahamas and Western Air. So visit Mydens Wholesale today at any of 3 locations, East Street South, Robinson Road, or Lower Bogey, Luthra. Call 325-4434 or 676-4435.
Welcome to the best of sports world.
My teacher say I have hate my heart, that I am no good, that I like to fight too much. Who does she think put it there? In my house, if you question daddy, you get a black eye. In my house, a fist is power.
Let's talk. Call the Bahamas Crisis Center's free 24-hour hotline at 328-0922. Sometimes a conversation can change a life.
I do have children, I do, and a wife, and it's kind of cool. You know, I see them like every day. You know, because they got to come downstairs. So
the best part about being married is single people. Single people always got to let you know how single they is. They can't just be single. Single people got to stop everything. Let me tell you something. I am single. I come and go as I please. I ain't got to call nobody. I got to check in. This is my house, my car. I am single.
Out of nowhere, right? You get them father-son moments. It's all powerful. You feel like, my son looks, he's only 4. Looked at me, he said, Dad, I want to be a doctor. Yes. 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 Right? Then he said, or a dinosaur.
Coming to you from Hollywood, almost live. It's Comics Unleashed. Hot chocolate with your host, Byron Allen.
When the days are cold and the cards all fold and the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all and the bloods run stale. When the days are cold and the cards all fold and the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all and the bloods run stale. I wanna hide the truth, I wanna shelter you, but with the beast inside, there's nowhere we can hide. No matter what we breathe, we still
Full depression through a tropical storm. I fix my strength to a hurricane, knocking deadly winds on torrential rain. Hurricane a coming, you better batten down. Hurricane a coming, it's so big and strong. Hurricane a coming, you better not delay. You better find shelter, cause it's headed your way. Dark in the sky, but I can see. My eye is near the center, there I'm calm as can be. Thunder and the lightning, raging seas. I pay them no salary, but they work for me. Hurricane is coming.
Hey, thank you very much, Margaret, Elizabeth, Phil Stubbs, and Hurricane. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the conversation. By the way, today's show is brought to you by the Ministry of Finance, Almighty Computers, Miden's Wholesale, S&M Uniforms, Money Managers, GM Appliances, and Club One Fitness Center. Thank you all so much for coming on board the conversation. It's good to have you all here. Once again, we're going to hear from Bernard Miller this week, who's going to tell you how you can become a part of this conversation family and you know, have your buck go a whole lot further on the biggest platform there is.
Yeah, sound like I need to write my check now.
I need you. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this. What I need is Ali and Troy to get
just a couple little more words then.
You didn't drop how much you didn't drop? I need the two of you all to get on board this show and stop trying to just ride this train for free.
I know, right?
That's all I'm saying.
Hey, we charge consultation fee, Troy.
I know, right?
Let's stay focused. Let's just stay focused. Maxine, thank you so much for holding. Welcome to the conversation on a Hot Topics Monday.
Yes, sweetie. What Miss Maxine Jackson calling about the two doctors was on the TV last Monday?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to have their telephone number.
Oh
please.
boy, Maxine, I am so sorry. Boy, and that's Dr. Pinder. The other doctor is a Jamaican.
And one is a Bahamian.
Bahamian, right. I don't, oh dear. Boy, I don't even know where his clinic is. Maxine, why don't you call the Medical Association of the Bahamas?
Call the
Medical Association of the Bahamas.
Of the Bahamas.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, because
Yes.
I want something to help me with his pain in his knee, because I'm 85.
Oh, 85. Okay, that's what you do. Call the Medical Association of the Bahamas. Ask for Dr. Pinder. Dr. Pinder's first name is, the Lord of Mercy, wait, I don't even know. Anyways, say, ask for the doctor who was on Shenique Miller's show. It's Dr. Pinder.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Maxine, absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Hello to you, Mr. Hepburn. Thank you very much for holding. Welcome to the conversation.
Hey, hello, Shenique.
Hello.
Good day to you.
Hello.
Hey, Shenique, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
The lady you have inside the room now?
Yes, sir.
She got it on point. Like you said, we have to change the culture. Because before we were independent, we already knew being Hawkins one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me put it to you like this. Since all the vehements right now pay tax, you think the government could take $1 from every vehement tax, what they pay, put it in a trust fund for every vehement household once a year, $1 a day, at least $1 a day, $365 a year. So that we don't have no housing for 2-3 years. When we do our one, they could cut a check. A household could get ready for the hurricane, or they could cut a check after the hurricane passes. If the house gets bust up, to have them repair their home. It's like national insurance. We definitely did not. How much people who die can't bury themselves? Or how much people get sick and injured and need financial assistance and couldn't get it if parents didn't implement that? You understand what I said?
Mm-hmm.
See, the culture costs money, and all you are talking about costs money. But there ain't no money being put aside for a hurricane. And notice what the government do after the hurricane. Put us in debt. They go borrowing money to try to repair things. And all I'm saying is you take the scene, you could even use steam rock.
So you're saying the government should further tax or get $1?
No. Tax return.
Huh?
See, everybody been paying tax now for what? Where the money goes, man, in a consolidated fund, right? But is any of that money allocated for hurricane? You see me now? That's what I mean.
They have insurance
because
fund.
if I can give the government at least $1 a day in VAT, you don't think they should put that aside for a disaster that we can't avoid that comes every year or every other year? Like the lady said, we need a new culture.
Mm-hmm.
The new culture gonna cost money. Where the money comes from? From the people. So if they don't manage the money and send it to the right place, we will stay borrowing money after the farm and before the farm. Just notice, we go into this hurricane zone every time, and they tell you, fill up your car with gas that costs money. They tell you, stock up with canned goods that costs money. And if I got a minimum wage job, I just barely making it. Where the money coming from? You understand that?
You know what, caller, though? I hear what you're saying. But the thing is, I'll tell you, the same way somebody called and say, listen, government cannot mandate that I leave my house, etc. Government cannot legislate taking money from you to help you with hurricane. You understand what I'm saying?
That's what you have insurance for.
Right.
You know, hurricane insurance. All those
Right.
kind
I
of
don't
things,
think the government can come into your personal finances and say, okay, you make $100 a week. I need $10 from this a week. to help you with hurricane. I think that is bordering and infringing on a lot of constitutional rights that people will totally object to. Ali, what are your thoughts?
Shenique,
Yes, sir.
how you think we got national insurance? You know?
National insurance is like a social security measure.
For what reason?
To help on a wider scale for when you're retired, when you are perhaps injured on the job and so you're off work and you can I just don't know, but I don't know. Maybe he has a point. Anybody understand what he's saying?
You said it when you're talking about whether the government should mandate, but there are 401ks in the United States that the government mandate that people must have. If you're working, you have to put aside money for retirement because when you get
But you do that.
government
You
will
have to do
support
that.
it. Yeah, but you're being mandated to do it.
No, the companies. The companies. Everybody don't. Right, the companies.
So that the government doesn't have to bear such a burden whenever people retire.
And that's an insurance. So
it's the same thing. It has the culture. Sorry, what's the
Yes, the insurance costs money.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Mandate to secure.
Yeah, he's talking about insurance.
Mandate that people people get insurance.
No, mandate. We got a security department in the country, right?
Yes.
You think it's only for crime? You see what I said? It's not only for crime. Government job is security for natural disasters as well as crime, health, and the list goes on. That's why we have national insurance. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you very much. He makes a good point. It's interesting. You dissect it.
But we talk about the hurricane insurance, right?
Yes.
Hurricane insurance. However we govern, you have to consider all of the things that is going to cause situations in the country. Like we say, we live in a hurricane belt. We will always have hurricanes. We can't move like Glenroy. And because we can't move, then you have to have hurricane insurance. So the mandate really is, how do we build a society where people are protected, that whenever these things happen, people are already having gotten insurance to make sure it's taken care of. I mean, it has to look at a little bit more, but the fact that it has to be done, that's the
Absolutely.
problem.
Listen, guys, I want to look at something real quick before we go to
you want to look at the Democrats?
Another story. Another story
Or the
is like,
Republican?
are we honoring our wonderful athletes who go to the world stage and do such incredible job? For example, Shenique Miller.
Who she is?
The last name.
Oh, Shenique.
Yeah, it's another S. Miller.
Shenique.
Well, that's us S. Millers,
Right.
And the thing about it is, though, for example, there's an article in the Tribune where Angleton MP is saying, where's the red carpet for Shenique? Shenique has been doing incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just this season, but for seasons now. But this season in particular, winning a race almost at World Meets almost every weekend. And she apparently is here this weekend, and nothing.
Just like Ali say, we are people of culture. We don't lift up our own when our own do well. But the minute somebody messes up, everybody on their case, and it's so sad. I mean, she represents this country very well on the athletic front, and I haven't heard anything. I saw something come across social media about it, but I didn't get any information about it and so forth like that. But basically, what should have happened is that with a small country like us, it should have been something.
Make a big deal of it.
I think when she arrived, she should have.
Because for this small country, she is doing more for tourism or doing just as much for tourism as Bahama is.
Every time she grabbed that flag and run around, I mean, she's so tall and beautiful. And can run.
Yes, can run.
Yeah, we have to do more. They should have known when she was coming in, and I'm sure they did. They should have had the red carpet then.
Yes.
We have to be able to respond at moment's notice. That's why we have all these agencies right now.
No, agency, but the corporate places like Atlantis and all of those places, and everybody could chip in. Everybody needs to chip in. Not us who don't have no money, Ali.
Yeah, but our behavior pride can kick in different ways. We can highlight her. We can share our posts. Yeah. We can put stuff out there. We can brag about Shenique Miller on a regular basis. We can post these things. Right?
Don't we have an agency that is responsible responsible for
but,
that.
But at the same time, see, I always am a firm believer that people are not going to appreciate you the way you're supposed to appreciate yourself first. And by that I mean we have to show appreciation for each other on that level, so much so that when people see you make accomplishments, they take it to the next level.
Yeah,
so
but
we as a populace don't even do what we're supposed to do.
No, but sometimes the football people, the football team would win, and I mean the next morning there's a big old fanfare.
Because you know why?
Somebody's responsible for organizing
But
this.
again, it's fans.
Fans
drive this. Yeah. Listen, fans drive this. For example, if Shawnee Miller come out with a Shawnee Miller tennis, how many persons will buy it? Okay, but we'll buy a Jordan tennis. If Shawnee Miller put some T-shirts out there with a face on it, how many of us will show pride and say, you know what, we support you. We believe in you. So it has to go beyond just what the government can do. What we as a population willing to do to support our own and show appreciation.
And how that comes about, it has to start from childhood in the educational system, because because I remember when I was a little boy in school, things like that happened. I remember Elijah Obed when he came. I lying off by A.F. Adley to view the motorcade, because that was culture. That was a culture that when Bahamian rise to that occasion, you go and see them. But we have lost that.
Somebody has to, however it looks like, somebody has to be responsible for it.
Yeah.
And it's somebody has to be able to. Once she was jumping, and every weekend, like Shenique said, every weekend she's jumping. Somebody has to call her parents. When is she coming home? She's running. She's running. So every time when is she coming home? She plans to be home on the weekend of the 17th. Then we have to plan. I'm saying the point is the Josiah Institute is about leadership and public policy, and that's the whole point. Somebody has to be responsible. Let's put it like this. If we're going to change the culture in the country, somebody has to be responsible about everything. And it rises and falls on leadership. Leadership takes the glory, they take the shame. So you have to be responsible. Somebody has to be responsible. When Shawnee gets here, that there's a red carpet at the airport. There are people at the airport to meet her. She don't just drive home. And that is why it has to be, the country has to be reorganized to make certain we're not doing this peace. Reorganize that we make sure.
Remember we marched, right?
Yes.
When Bahamians decided to march outside, you know what the politicians do? They came to join the march.
Right, yes.
When they see the masses doing something, they will join in. So we have to start doing it.
Right.
I quite agree. I quite agree.
Listen, and I saw you, Margaret. Margaret said Shawnee Miller Ubido. I didn't want to say it because I don't know how to pronounce it well. So I believe it's Ubido, whatever it is. Anyways, yeah, she won the IAAF Diamond League and just doing incredible stuff. Congratulations, Shawnee. You're super. Stay exactly where you are. The conversation is going to take a break and come up with more after this.
Real change starts now with the upcoming public procurement.
Cards all fold in the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all, and the bloods run stale. When the days are cold and the cards all fold in the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all, and the bloods run stale. I wanna hide the truth, I wanna shelter you, but with the beast inside, there's nowhere we can hide. No matter what we breathe.
What you see and hear on this television station is governed by IRCA's Code of Practice for Content Regulation. The Code of Practice covers matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, such as local content, news, current affairs, programs for children, advertising, including political advertisements, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting in the Bahamas. The Code also covers aspects such as access services for the hearing and visually impaired, and the procedure for lodging a complaint about anything broadcast by this station. The code is available on the IRCA website at www.ircabahamas.bs. To receive a copy of the code by mail or in person, you may telephone IRCA at 242-393-0234. Family Island dialing is toll-free at 1-242-300-8722. Or you may send a request by email to info@ircabahamas.bs.
Hey, I'm Megan Shepard, a reporter here at the ZNS Northern Service. Did you know that ZNS is right at your fingertips when you download the new ZNS app? Missed something in our newscast? That's okay. Simply pull up the app, swipe, and you'll find all of our news headlines and highlights. So what are you waiting for? Download the new ZNS app today.
Health and wellness, transformation, yeah, we got it. Discuss your breakthroughs, national issues.
Welcome back to the... So listen, Portia was here, and Portia says Weibo. I couldn't get the last name. So Shawnee Miller Weibo. Yeah, congratulations once again. And so, guys, let's just quickly, I mean, in like 2 minutes, I guess, talk about this move by the Attorney General again. Talks about cabinet to review bills on fixed election dates and term limits for the Prime Minister. Well, here is an election promise or campaign promise that the Prime Minister and his administration appears to be delivering on. Your thoughts about the fact that they are now bringing this up for I guess cabinet review, and then obviously subsequent debate and passing into law.
Yes, it will be tabled in October, according to what the Prime Minister stated. Upon his return from the United Nations, because he's going out to the United Nations sometime this week or next week. So, I mean, it's a good thing because that means this administration is keeping to their promise as it relates to term limits and set election date, and I think that will help a great deal. What I would like to see in addition to that is campaign funding and finance reform, and then also what the word I want to use when you anyway, go on.
No, I think it's a good idea also. Obviously, the next generation is actually calling for reform when it comes to political, not only the campaign reform, as you says, but fixed dates. The Constitution has a fixed date in terms of election. All we need to do it. We need to say it like the U.S. does. It's the second Tuesday in November. And we know that is how it will happen every 5 years. I don't think you need to make a constitutional amendment in that regard, but we do need to think about those matters of recall for non-performing members of Parliament, that if you can get enough signatures in a constituency, it should be done. And so in regards to the Independent Boundaries Commission, that too is important so that there would be no gerrymandering in regards to that. So it's a good direction. There are a lot of consultation of research that has been done that can lend to this administration's work if they are prepared. You know, as I said before, I have a book coming out, How to Reconstruct a Nation. It has those issues.
Self-promote?
If I don't sell them, who is going to? No, but I'm saying it's just a matter of consultation.
Listen, Renard, please reach out to Ali and Troy and get my money. That's all I'm saying. Listen, let's quickly go to the PLP. The PLP, listen, and speaking of fixed election dates and term limits, etc., for Prime Minister, the PLP, 3 minutes remaining. So, guys, 2 minutes on this. The PLP and its deputy leader, Chester Cooper, says the PLP wants more millennials and women. Millennials, were the biggest voting bloc, and then women, the largest sort of single voting bloc in last election. How a strategic a move is this?
I think it's a very strategic move on behalf of the Progressive Liberal Party, and I think they are feeding off the Democratic National. The DNC anyway committee in the U.S. because we see a lot of progressive young black women are actually taking the leadership role and winning candidacy to represent the DNC, and I think they are trying to take their cue from the DNC, but I think it's a very strategic move. The question is, will it work in time for 2020?
Not that they did it 2002, 2007, 2012. They get the new faces, they get the new people, they got the young people. But if the system has not changed in which they operate under, nothing is going to happen. We want not just to have new people, new faces. We need a new kind of governance that will change how we govern this country. And that's from the perspective of a political party all the way to the governance.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah, and I couldn't say it any better. I remember when we had a scenario where somebody was a bridge to the future.
Yeah.
And there will be a time that I will depart office and I will turn it over to some younger person.
Oh, this is not a new idea.
No. And then what ended up turning around is the majority of the younger people who are actually a part of the new generation were not a part of the party anymore.
Yeah, so, how did that work out?
And that didn't work out too well. But the truth is, we just can't use millennials just for the sake of using them and using women for the sake of using them to gain the vote. We have to have a serious approach to what it is that we're trying to achieve, and that is change. And the only way you're going to make it happen is if you be truthful and you have some programs to make it happen.
Thank you guys so much. Glenroy Pratt, Ali McIntosh, Troy Clark, thank you all so much for hanging out today and having a very, very in-depth discussion on various topics here on Hot Topics Monday. I really enjoyed today's show. Thank all of you on social media as well. Today's show brought to you by Ministry of Finance, Almighty Computers, Mighty's Wholesale, S&M Uniforms, Money Managers, GM Appliances, and Club One Fitness Center. Stay close. The news at 6 is straight ahead.
The views and opinions expressed on this show or program are not necessarily the views of the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.